May the 21st, 2024. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to be your host tonight, Dana Durnford. We'll get there in a second. You can call into these shows at 709-589-4406. 709-589-4406. Maria Korsnick. Sorry. We got a poll for her tonight. Should the Nuclear Energy Institute chief Maria Korsnick apologize for Fukushima's killing all whales, seals, seabirds, etc., etc.? Hi, everybody. We got 2 people on our show. That's pretty good. James can't find a shirt, and there's a good reason, James. Actually, that you can't find a shirt on my site. I had to. I seen a comment last night. He said he couldn't find a shirt, and so sure enough, when I went up to the site, the shirt was gone. And so last night I reposted it without the tags that I used before because there's no copyright there. And this morning it was gone again. So I don't know what the hell is going on. I've had that happen to me before, but usually they tell you why the shirt is gone, right? That you had copyright or there was advertisement there they're not allowed to use it, and because some of the articles I'm using have advertisement, right? So I've learned over the years not to do a lot of things. But that shirt never had anything extra, so I don't know. I'm going to try again tomorrow. We got fenders on the trailer. That was quite the ordeal. And we'll show you some pictures and videos. We got other stuff accomplished today besides that. Let's talk about Maria Korsnick. Probably butchered her name. I don't really care. Should she apologize for killing all the birds and whales and insects? Like you're talking about 10,000 gray whales dead post-Fukushima. You're talking about 7,000 humpback extra on top of what we already know about. There's been mass mortality events for humpback whales, many other whales too, not just humpbacks. But now they acknowledge there's another 7,000 missing / they starved to death, right? They acknowledge that. There's over 10,000 culverted beak whales off the United Kingdom. These are deep water whales you never see along the UK coast, right, because of the continental shelf. And so they had found over 1,000 different stages of decomposition. And we have mass mortality events for sperm whales, minke whales, for killer whales, for pilot whales. And remember, the pilot whales, 2014 and 15, whenever the headlines we've covered, and I can show you on a drop of a hat, were all emaciated, and they stopped talking about the conditions. So I really think that Miss Lovely there should apologize, and she should resign. How can she looks like a normal person, but yet she's the CEO of the chief of a mass genocide machine. Right? You know, their legacy of dumping nuclear waste in the ocean is unparalleled. We've never seen nothing compared to what the nuclear industry has done. It spent almost 40 years just dumping it directly into the ocean. But she's unapologetic, right? She's the CEO of the Nuclear Energy Institute and also cautions demand on the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will continue to climb The industry's called for changes in the licensing and the review process to help enable a massive build-out of nuclear power projects. But like they've got all the money. They own the universities. They own the medias. They still can't get it together. They have absurd amount of money thrown at them for the littlest things that they do, and they still can't get it together. You know, last year there was 1.7 gigawatts of nuclear went offline, less than it was the year before. And there was 507 gigawatts, which is equal to 600 large nuclear power plants and renewables came online. How can nuclear compete with something like that, really? How can they do it? At every level of society, across borders and aisles and industry and sectors, support for the nuclear has materialized into demand. But like the last reactors, there's no reactors being built in the United States, for instance, which is the most reactors per country in the world. And they're descending into the gates of stupid. So during an annual State of the Industry address, and the race to realize its potential is officially underway. Its potential is to wipe out every species. And that is well underway, as we know from the research expeditions. And so I truly believe she should apologize and she should resign. And like when she was young, this is my version of her when she was young. And she's obviously not young now, but that's who she really is. Or you look at her and she seems like a normal, well-adjusted human, but what she's doing is monstrous. This is a representation of what she really is. Right? Like they let people like this to key positions because they seem like they would incentivize the young kids in that, right? But in reality, she's just another monster whose legacy now is an extinction level event. And how can she pretend that this is not happening? Really, though, how does that actually work? How do you wake up and look in the mirror every day? How does she wake up every day and not see that? Because it takes hours to look like that. But in reality, she actually looks like that. And she knows it. And you know it, too, if you're honest. The Scandalous science behind nuclear regulation. So this is another one of those pro-nuclear desperados. A flawed scientific model. At the time at the linear no threshold, a flawed scientific model continues to hinder the nuclear power industry and shape policies, holding us back. And nuclear power could be a game changer for energy affordability, grid reliability, and carbon reduction. Like, first off, you need 2 gas, oil, coal plants just to run a nuclear plant, dedicated to it, to build it, to run it, and 60 years to decommission it. And as for the reliability, it shuts down every 14 months. And the reliability, for starters, is after the first 14 months or so, when you take the fuel out of the reactor, they put it in a pool where now it's still splitting atoms, but there's no containment. And this is why all these disease factories are surrounded by farms. They're literally purposely designed that way so they can poison you in the supermarkets. It's insidious, really. Every facet of this industry is gut-wrenching. However, it's been stifled for decades based on one deeply flawed scientific model, the linear no threshold. Now, we've seen that under attack from all the bootlickers for many, many years, right? For over 2 decades, we've been covering that routine. The theory underlying this model is, and like sometimes, I got the loneliest job on the planet. I really do, right? Because we don't have other people out there. Like, if I was talking about Iran, I can go out and read articles all day, right? If I was talking about if I was talking about solar power, we can go and read articles, and there's all kinds of videos and all kinds of podcasts. And, I mean, like hundreds every day. No matter what the subject. But for nuclear, the stories that are there are strictly propaganda. There's no honesty whatsoever. And so when I say I get the loneliest job, I feel, and like today's one of those days where I feel like I get one of the loneliest existence and jobs in human history. And it takes a toll on you. I'm under siege for so many years and they're counting on that. They know at some point they're going to wear you down, right? Because they have endless resources to do this to you with. And Operation Long Jump, I can assure you, is in full swing, as Countdown Charlie had warned me. It actually really is in full swing. They are destroying me and my reputation, which has been under siege for a long time. But now they've taken it to a different level. They really are going to work on me. And I'm being ostracized. But we have an extinction level event, and all the research and everything else quantifies those assertions with proof, with field studies, with incontestable, unassailable field studies. The theory underlining the model suggests that any exposure to ionizing radiation, no matter how small, increases the cancer risk, and that risk rises in a linear way with exposure levels. And he said it's not true, but it is. And so what happens is the physical atoms, the anthropogenic man-made physical atoms, you ingest it, you breathe it, you drink it, it's in your food, or you wash with it and it absorbs it. There's many different ways it absorbs, even through your hair follicles in your nose or on your body. It's able to get in your body. You're talking about something so tiny, it's hard for even academics to really appreciate it 100%, right? To be able to articulate it. You can put 200 million atoms on the head of a needle, but you can't see it. But if a single one of these anthropogenic man-made gets in your body attacks it for the rest of your life with white blood cells. And what that means, of course, is eventually, if you live long enough, it's going to build a tumor around it. But at the same time it's in your body, it's exploding every second, almost at the speed of light. And it damages DNA and chromosomes all over your body. Your body has to repair that every single second, all that damage, and attack the source. And it does that with white blood cells. And so in order for white blood cells to exist, you have to displace a red blood cell. And the red blood cell carries oxygen nutrition. So there really is a cause and effect for even the tiniest amount that is on the atomic scale that most people can't possibly comprehend, because the industry is very deceptive and deceitful and dishonest and disingenuous. And as you bioaccumulate this in your body's under siege with white blood cells. So what they want you to think about is like an X-ray at the hospital or something like that. And this is how they win some of their arguments, because people don't know the nuances, the details, the minutiae of the minutiae. The roots of the linear no threshold dominance are more political than scientific, but they're simply not. This, if you go back and you look at the April 25th Chernobyl anniversary video, I mean, over 400 studies. It clearly quantifies that what he's claiming is simply not true. It's simply not true. Because they have to study every facet of the ecosystem and humanity, because they know how radiation damages everything and attacks everything. So it's very dishonest. These are very dishonest people. And Muller, who was the author of and got the Nobel Prize for the linear no threshold, claimed fault, and he's been under siege because that's how they do it, right? He's the original inception of it, so they need to attack his credibility, and he's not here to defend it, right? And so that's the lonely job where we have to come out and defend it. Falsely claimed in his 1946 Nobel acceptance speech there was no escape from the conclusion that any radiation is harmful. Well, yeah, just a single atom is in your body, pulls an energy. Eventually, your body will build a cancer tumor around it. And what because your body doesn't recognize this as a foreign object, it's building a sarcophagus, and we call it a tumor, right? Because your body has no autoimmune trigger to defend against it. That's its reaction, and it's sustained. So the more radiation and energetic isotopes, atoms you get in your body, the less oxygen you're producing, the less nutrition you're having in your body, because you have more white blood cells eventually than red blood cells. They call that leukemia. You weren't a father could unleash a wave of birth defects. This was the time of Muller, which is 100% exactly what happened, right? Though human studies of the offsprings of the Japanese atomic bomb survivors found no significant evidence of genetic damage. They built the city back on a bomb crater. They studied every generation. And if you go back and look at my Hiroshima and Nagasaki anniversary presentations with hundreds of studies, then this statement doesn't stand up, right? These people in the nuclear industry, the pro-nuclear community, are the strangest creatures we have ever encountered on the planet. They live through complete misrepresentation of every facet of the actual science. Muller helped convince the National Academy of Science, helped. Well, there's other scientists, they would have replicated, it would have been peer-reviewed. They didn't just take his word for it. To exclude the inconvenient data when it convened on an expert panel to assess the fallout risk, opting instead to rely on his research using fruit flies, and he also then, because he was under assault, he had newer studies that were involving mice. They showed the same attributes. And Edward Calabrese, a toxicologist at the University of Massachusetts, who we've covered extensively over the years, he's just a shill for nuclear industry. He's a despicable creature. And of course, you'll find him as professors at universities. Just a typical place where these people are roosted. And this guy's a senior fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute and an author of a report on myths and facts in radiation risk. Myths and facts. So in other words, he's just another shill for the industry. He's not an author. He's an author of that. That's not a report. It's a hit piece on humanity and the 8 million species. Excuse me. Cabinet minister told the Lords he had plans for a small modular reactor north of the border after 2026 Holyrood elections. No, but there is no small modular reactors. They don't got plans for geothermal, but they got plans always for small modular reactors. And anything a small modular reactor can do, geothermal can do a hell of a lot sooner, a hell of a lot cheaper, 6 times cheaper. And there's no adverse side effects. And you can recycle everything. You don't have to hire tens of thousands of people. You can just hire 20 or 30 engineers and maintenance guys, and it's good for the next 50, 60 years. Degenerate, birthplace of a nuclear industry in Scotland. So, like, Degenerate won't be habitable for at least 315 years in Scotland, which is part of the UK reprocessing facility that they situated in Scotland, of all places. Plans are being drawn up to build Scotland's first new nuclear power station in decades if the SNP is ousted from the government at the next Holyrood election. So what they're saying is if the current political party in Scotland is ousted, roasted, or by deceit or deception, the new party that's not there yet is going to immediately sign memorandums of understanding for small modular reactors. I mean, that's the most crazy assertion imaginable. They don't give a shit about the people. We're going to do this. But you're not even elected. Yeah, but we are. This is what we're doing. Well, what about the people? There's going to be a referendum? No. Nuclear energy has no place in a green Scotland. It leaves a long and toxic legacy. And Mr. Jack revealed under questioning at the House of the Lords Constitutional Committee that the UK government is planning to work with anti-independent parties to deliver a new nuclear reactor in Scotland. Anti-independent parties. In other words, they want to stay with the monarchy, Prince or King Charles. Scotland only has one operational nuclear site, the Torrens, which is set to be decommissioned in 2028. And almost all the reactors in the United Kingdom are set to be decommissioned around 2028 in another 3 years. And so just at the very last, at the very end of it, Boris Johnson played a big hand in it. They decided they're going to build these new nuclear reactors, but they can't build them themselves, of course. And so they're going to get France to do it. France is struggling with everything it tries. But the nuclear industry is so powerful, it has to consume everything for it to survive. And each year it has to consume more and more. It has to consume everything. And ultimately, the only thing that can exist, if they get their way, will be nuclear, and everything else will be dead and gone. There'll be no plants, no trees, no insects. There'll be nothing but nuclear. The Scottish Greens have long campaigned for a nuclear-free Scotland, which is also the default position of the Scottish government. There's nothing safe, secure, green about nuclear energy, and many people across Scotland will be dismayed and angry. And aside from the brazen entitlement and the message to send that ignores that people in Scotland have long rejected nuclear energy, I hope that all progressive parties will unite in condemning this environmental wrecking overreach. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to put it. The Hinkley Point shambles has exposed the UK government's total inability to deliver nuclear programs on budget or on time. And nuclear renewables are 6 times cheaper and takes 1/4 of the time. Why is nuclear ever in the conversation? Well, because the industry has always got its own way, and it's so many generations of inbreeds on top of that they feel they're entitled to everything. And they don't care. They kill every bird, every insect, every whale, every mammal, every human. As long as the nuclear exists, that seems to be all they care about. They don't have any rationale whatsoever. It's nuclear has to exist. Everything else can be sacrificed. And so these are not planet-friendly people at all. They don't like us. They don't like the insects. They don't like anything. They don't even like themselves. Taking a lead in nuclear waste disposal. The service lead for treatment and conditioning services, nuclear waste, Chris Macey Services, which is talking about the United Kingdom. There is no nuclear waste services in the United Kingdom. Their legacy is just dismal. They got 8,000 liters a day hemorrhaging into the Atlantic Ocean from Sellafield alone. And Sellafield is also now accused, with a lot of academic studies, along with La Hague in France, the reprocessing sites, of completely contaminating the Arctic Circle. Huge quantities of nuclear waste from the permanent disposal of the UK's low-level waste repository in Cumbria, which has massive cancer clusters for children. They blame it on the common flu, right? Take the waste away from the permanent disposal. This industry is insane. Every time we look at this industry, we're left with the reality that the people in the industry are the worst things can happen to a planet. 98% of that waste was released for recycling and diverted from the repository. Try wrapping your minds around that statement. 98% of the waste, instead of going into a repository, was diverted and then recycled. Diverted and recycled. I see we got 14 concurrent viewers. on the most important show in human history. The contempt they got for us is unbelievable. Nobody's allowed to have a conversation. Not even allowed to have T-shirts, apparently. Nobody's allowed to have a conversation. 98% of that waste was released for recycling and diverted from the repository. But the idea of the repository was not to, 90% of the waste at a nuclear site can't be recycled, so unless you're in the United Kingdom, where they just don't care. They'll turn it into kids' toys and kids' radioactive toys. I've been working in the waste service team and nuclear waste services for 2 years. I provided environmental benefits with huge amounts of nuclear waste being recycled. There is no environmental benefit with huge amounts of nuclear waste being recycled. I can't even wrap my mind around why that sentence would exist. Environmental benefits with huge amounts of nuclear waste being recycled. Try, deconstruct that sentence, or that facet of the sentence. Environmental benefits with huge amounts of there is no environmental benefits to nuclear waste. These are monsters. Is the only way you can describe these people. In parallel, the National Waste Program was launched to coordinate the initiative, now superseded by the Integrated Waste Management Program, the UK's low-level waste repository compared to the lethal doses. Right, so they're comparing it to fuel rods. With the gamma shines, the beta rays, the neutron bombardments will kill you right away. Where this stuff will kill you next week or next month. So they call it low-level waste, but it's simply not low-level waste. In Cumbria, it won't reach capacity as quickly, saving almost $1 billion of taxpayers' money and supporting the circular economy by recycling waste, nuclear waste. Honest to goodness, the United Kingdom nuclear industry, the country should be invaded and these people should be Nuremberg trials. These are monsters. There's nothing they won't do they'll kill everything in order to survive another couple of years. This is due to waste being diverted away from the repository. The idea of the repository was not to divert it away. So they came in a couple of years ago, they changed all the rules, and now they say, well, no, let's recycle it. And everybody's like, yay, let's do it. We've totally flipped our stats for how much waste goes in. They flipped the stats for how much goes into the vault for final disposal and how much waste is diverted and recycled. Over and over and over that word recycled, isn't it? I've actually never seen nothing like this before. We now only dispose, we now only dispose of around 2%. So 98% of it is being recycled. This is nuclear waste. You can't recycle nuclear waste. So what they done was they took the low-level, the linear no threshold, and they flushed it down the toilet, and they said, to hell with all of you. I couldn't care about any of you. We're going to put it back into the ecosystem, and you're going to like it. We used to dispose of 95% of the waste we managed into the vaults, so they would fill up in a very short space of time. Well, no. You used to dump for 30 years. You just went and dumped it right directly into the ocean. Why don't you just go back and do that now? Why don't you just get it over with? Go back and dump it into the ocean. Because recycling it back into the ecosystem is the same thing, isn't it? These are monsters. Through incineration. Well, you can't burn radiation. You can't destroy radiation, rather, by putting it in an incinerator. You just liberate it back into the ecosystem. Same as Japan's doing. So they're using Japan's model, right? Sending lower activity waste to permitted landfills. So, and they're doing all of this so that the so-called deep geological repository won't fill up as quick. And another side effect of this, of course, is if you take only high level and put it down in the deep geological repository, when it melts down, it all melts down. And it will melt down at some point. It doesn't need oxygen, see? Super compaction, which some of the stuff can cause a chain reaction by doing that. And metal decontamination for recycling. You can't decontaminate it. Because in order, like, they've done it with the USS Ronald Reagan. Four times it went in to be decontaminated because of Fukushima. And they just basically went in and grinded, the upper layers of all the steel off to drop the doses of the radiation. But they had to do it 4 different times, and even then it's still not safe. But when you grind the top layer from fallout, from physical atoms, you're just liberating the atoms, the radioactive material, into the air by turning into particles. It's like Japan in burning radioactive waste in the incinerators. All nuclear plants have incinerators. I mean, this industry is so out of control that they're always trying to top each other with how evil can we be. Oh, that's pretty evil. Let's do that. Nobody's done that before. Let's do that. That's what these people are like. And the universities will give them like big parties, and they'll get awards, and there'll be cocktails and tuxedos and long dresses, and give each other pats on the back and little awards, little plaques. The media will write up little stories and congratulate them. And they'll feel really good about themselves, right? But as they get older and look back on what they've done, like Maria Korsnick, the reality will sit in. Well, we got 12 people on our show tonight. It's desperation, isn't it? There's a lot more than 12 people, 13 people watching our show, I can tell you that much. But I mean, the desperation of what they do is unbelievable. Firstly, our route to permit a landfill site was take the very low activity waste. This waste doesn't need the engineered controls we have for the repository sites. Just bear with me 1 second here. Let me show you the stats for last night's show. Everybody's always liking a few good laughs, eh? How bad did he ding us last night? So when 19 minutes after the show was over, I had 8 views. I had 110 views, though. But 19 minutes later, I still only had 8 views. It's not like I had 32 likes when the show was over. And that's another thing they do to me. When the show is over, I rarely, if ever, get any statistics, right? I only get around 10 subscribers a month. My other site had 25,000 subscribers. And when we were out in the woods looking for spiders, they deep sixed the site. No emails, no strikes, just bye-bye data. And it was 10 years of research expeditions and everything else on that site. There's 1,500 presentations on that site. These are a lot of work, what I do every night. It doesn't, you have to go out and find all this information. You have to read the first time. You have to then screen capture the lies, come out and challenge the lies. And all we're trying to do is keep Fukushima in the conversation. And the waste can just go to normal landfill sites that are permitted by the environmental agency to accept it. Which if it's going to go to a normal landfill, then they can all accept it, right? Because they're just a normal landfill. So why would the environmental agency have to have an input into it? So that the people are so complacent now. Oh, well, the environmental agency said it's okay. This is the largest amount of waste we generate as a nuclear industry. These are actual monsters. Next, we can burn some of the waste in specialized incinerators that are very difficult to dismantle when they're finished because they're so radioactive. And the resulting ash can go to a landfill, equating to 100% diversion from the vault. And the incineration not only destroys the hazard nature of the waste, but reduces the volume. It doesn't destroy waste, nuclear waste. You can't destroy nuclear waste. That's the problem with it. You just liberate it back into the environment. And so the person that wrote this is literally a monster. They look like a normal person, but they're actually a monster. Another rare treatment is super compaction, which is volume reduction technique. This sees drums of waste being literally squashed and compacted into small pucks, meaning we can place a lot more waste in a container. A highly effective space-saving treatment. This is not a treatment. This is what they've done for over 36 years or something in the United Kingdom. They weren't the only ones. They just went out and dumped their nuclear waste into the ocean. For 36 years, that was the standard, was to go out and throw their waste in. They had container ships, cargo ships rather, that would go out every single day. They had multiple cargo ships bringing their nuclear waste out and dumping it into the ocean. And they're not allowed to do it no more, so now they're just going to incinerate it. At what point do we call a monster, I wonder? The final service is the most environmental friendly and sustainable process, really. And see, like, the metallic treatment. We work with our suppliers, use a range of special technologies to clear the radioactive off a range of metals that can be reused and recycled. And here's the monster right there. Look at him. See, he looks like a normal person, but he's the furthest thing from a normal person. Right? He makes a good dollar doing it, and that's all that matters. To hell with all the 8 million species, couldn't care less. To hell with all the victims where they're burning the radiation waste, because people are going to breed that stuff in. Through our ambitions and action-oriented nature, we collaborate with customers and supply chain to make the nuclear waste permanently safe sooner. He's only been there 2 years, and he's a 100% monster at this stage. I wonder who his parents were. As decommissioning activity increases across the UK nuclear industry, this work is more important than ever. This is not decommissioning. This is genocide. This is an omnicide machine. And yet he thinks he has, because the industry said, go ahead and do whatever you want. They probably laughed every single time he said, well, let's do this. And people, because he doesn't understand, or he's just a monster. One or the other, or both. This is an actual demon, what we're talking about right now. He'll be knighted Sir, whatever. Sir Shitlips, the demon himself. What's his name? Chris Macey. He's been there for 2 years, and he changed everything. He came up with the solution. And he's so proud of himself, he actually put a picture of himself there. He's so proud of what he done. Because the industry would pat him on the back, gave him all kinds of bonuses. He's very wealthy. Like Thunderfoot, right? Like Stinkfoot. He knows he's a monster, but it makes a lot of money. North Dakota eyes the next generation nuclear as replacement for the coal plants. Like, what are you talking about? You eye next generation nuclear as a replacement? We've seen so many of these people over the last, say, 6 years in particular. Policymakers in North Dakota are starting to lay the groundwork for a nuclear power industry that doesn't exist. They're keeping an especially close eye on Wyoming, where build-a-terrorist gates as terrorist power and regional electricity utility Rocky Mountain Power aim to build a nuclear reactor on the site of a retired coal plant. But that's after Quatsi Electric was going to do a geothermal coal plant. And Bill Gates was like, well, nuclear can do that. The nuclear facility, if completed, they don't even have an application into the regulatory agency for a license. This is not even speculative. If completed, will enable the utility to repurpose the coal plant's transmission capacities while preserving upwards of 100 local jobs. Or you're going to need a lot more than that if it's nuclear. Nuclear is just what destroys everything. That's all nuclear is good at. It just destroys everything. It's once you take the fuel out and put it in the pool, start that cycle after the first 14 months, then you're going to poison everybody within hundreds or thousands of miles. Because you're splitting atoms. Never stops. You try wrapping your mind around how many atoms you got to split to boil a cup of water, and boil a kettle for a glass of water. Like, it's the amount of anthropogenic man-made atoms, and each one of them are brutal, everything with replicating cells, is astronomical. Now, how many atoms you got to split to boil water to power 1 million homes and businesses in 24 hours? It's unimaginable. The numbers, the actual real numbers, don't exist. We don't have a name for those type of numbers. And once you take it out of the reactor, it's still splitting those atoms, and they're released up those tall, skinny stacks. Not the steam, the big wide steam stacks. They don't release it. It's the tall, skinny stacks. And the incinerators are also hooked up to them. Every nuclear plant has 1 or 2 incinerators. And they all got pipes going directly out into the ocean. And because there's no checks and balances whatsoever, nothing. All the regulatory agencies were captured along 80 years ago. It's an industry that is not supposed to exist, and its only outcome is everything dies. That's the only outcome with nuclear power, nuclear anything. Everything has to die for it to survive. And now we are looking at an extinction level event because of a pulse event from Fukushima. Randy Kreisman, chair of the North Dakota Public Service Commission, echoed those concerns after a recent meeting. Nuclear generation is something that is very supportive of. But before getting into the details of the project, tell me where we're going to bury the waste. And see, when you're talking about the waste, you talk about burying it, but they don't tell you why waste is dangerous. Oh, it's dangerous for a long time, Dana. No, it's splitting atoms. And those atoms are released into the ecosystem because there's no containment. And anybody who breathes it in gets sick and die eventually from it. Every insect, every bird, every mammal, every animal, every child will get sick from it permanently too. And that's the worst thing about nuclear injuries, is it's permanent injuries. It's in your body, pulsing energy every second for the rest of your life. The United States to boost output of bomb designs to hit underground nuclear facilities. Oh yeah, blowing up nuclear facilities, that's a great idea. Well, it makes sense because and 30,000 pound bomb to blow up a nuclear facility. How is that going to work? How are you going to get that genie back in the bottle? Yeah, you're going to use a non-nuclear bomb to blow up a nuclear facility. It's called a massive, that's a 30,000 pound dirty bomb is what we're talking about. Album review, Gatecreeper, Dark Superstitions. And so Nuclear Blast is the major death metal type label company. Nuclear Blast. And name something good that came out of a nuclear blast, folks. There's nothing good came out of it. And what is that kind of a... these are incredible musicians, but they could have made other music instead and been even more incredible. But see, like that kind of music is a niche music. It's about indoctrinating the kids. It's like the Hulk or Spider-Man indoctrinating the kids for the nuclear, right? They never grew up. Never will. Uganda liaisons with Global Atomic Energy to set to develop their own nuclear plant. Uganda, who can't even get rid of the sewage in their own country or the garbage. You go to the typical community there and there's diapers and garbage around every structure. And you're going to put nuclear there because there's no checks and balances there. It's a perfect spot for nuclear, right? See the tall, skinny stacks? That's the death machines. They're taller than the steam stacks because they want the radioactive fallout to land off-site, the heavy particulates from the evaporation of the fuel pools. And the amount of radiation released there every day is catastrophic, and there's 1,000 of these fuel pools worldwide. Oh, we got a caller. We got James Lucid on the phone. Hi, James.
I can't believe. So I just spent the last 5 minutes chatting with the spring bot, whatever, at the shop. Like, why are you guys censoring Dana?
Yeah, no kidding. Good stuff.
We reserve the right to just do whatever we want if things are misleading and such and such. I'm like, well, who decides? You guys are a T-shirt shop. Who the fuck decides over there on what's misleading? What the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, no kidding. I was. It's not the first time, and I thought it might have been the keywords or something like that. Even though I was pretty sure I was safe, right? So I got rid of all those words and reposted it. And that's the industry, obviously, right? Industry got a toehold. They're a big company. The industry got a toehold there, and and that shirt was actually starting to take off, and I was like, "What the hell, man? This is awesome." I was thrilled on Sunday when I looked at it and seen I had sold shirts, and I was like, "That's got to be that shirt, right? This is fantastic. We're off again and running." And then I seen your comment on the show last night, and I was like, "Oh shit, no way!" And sure enough, I went there right away after the show. I seen your comment. I went straight there, and I went, "What?" And so I was indignant, eh? So I made another shirt and I posted it. And I was like, right? I never got the text there. This is going to go again, right? And I was depressed this morning when I seen it was gone. I was actually depressed.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And all day long it's been like a really bad side effect for me that they done that to me. And I think I'm going to look for another site, right?
Well, just think about how funny this is, because it was just again, I didn't even think about it. I just whip something up, send you a text, and you put it on a shirt.
Yeah, I love it.
This far.
That's what made it great, see? That's what made it brilliant, right? Just boom. Here we are, boom. And it all happened so quick.
I'm working on, how they have the mission patches, how the CIA has a mission patch.
Yeah.
The eagle on it and all that. Well, I'm working on a mission patch for Operation Long Jump. Will be on the top. And on the bottom, it's Tokyo Bureau, Chicago Division, and in the middle, it's like the hand of God with a pair of scissors cutting a microphone tape.
They cracked me up.
Flowers, fish, and so I'm working on that. So maybe if they censor that, then we'll know.
Yeah, I mean, there's no copyright. There was no copyright in that video, right? Or that those shirts. I made sure of it too, right?
And you can't copyright that. It's all there's nothing to copyright.
No, and I don't know, right? We were into the show for half an hour. I had 12 people on my show, and I was like, "My God, boy!"
Well, after your show last night, you wouldn't believe. That's why I'm calling in. I happened to find a live stream of this guy on a boat, fishing in Alaska for salmon. Right?
Yeah.
He's doing a live stream. He's on this boat. It's just him. There's nobody else. And he's got 3 poles that are just dragging from the back of the boat. And
yeah.
I caught it at a time where he's just complaining. He's like, I haven't caught any fish. Yep, I'm just never where the fish are.
Yeah.
And he's talking to himself. And, so I realized that he was live streaming for over an hour. He didn't catch a fish the entire time. And here he's got this look on his face of just
It's over. Wow. I actually done that, eh? When I was young, I done that up by Alaska. And what it is, they got what they call pigs. These are just rectangle floats, styrofoam, and on the poles that are hanging, because they have the poles hanging off the side of the boat, and they trail behind the boat, right? And they have a whole bunch of hooks on it. You snap the hooks on it as you're lowering it down, and there's a cannonball at the bottom of it. And you usually run 3 or 4 or 5 strings off the poles. And at the top of the poles are bills, and so every time a salmon is hooked on it, you'll hear that bill going off. And we would always, you would get a salmon on every single hook, and you do it all day long, and you would have to stop, right, because you couldn't keep up with it. And we used to freeze it. They had freezers on the boat. And I only went it for 2 weeks at it, but I actually done almost every single industry on the West Coast in about a 1.5 year period. It was quite the experience, eh? So I really do have an insight, right, into... But I mean, not to get a single one.
You're the expert, Dave. There's no one that knows. But that's exactly, you described exactly what I thought I saw him doing on this boat. And so I wrote a comment on the chat. I'm like, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on the ongoing Fukushima core meltdown? And he actually read the comment. I was surprised. He's like, hey James, exclusive, yeah, man, it's really a bummer, but I have to tell you what, I had no idea that it's still ongoing. Yeah,
people can't wrap their mind around it, eh? Unless Spider-Man or the Hulk is attached to it, they don't know what to make of it, see?
And then he's like, well, it's a shame because I believe in nuclear energy, but it's bad when there's a problem in the local area.
In the local area, yeah.
The local area. But then it's like his brain started working. It was weird. He was like, you know what? The warm current comes from Japan, but then he didn't follow up on that. But it was. Yeah, I didn't say anything after that. They can't.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but I in my personal experiences, whenever I try to have a conversation, I quickly realize I'm wasting my time. And because, they just can't, the average person, there are some that seems to grasp it that are open-minded, but they're very few, right? I don't know if you see the same thing as I'm seeing, right? Go ahead, James. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's just but it's just common sense, Dana. You watch your show for a couple of nights, and it's just...
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter how buried under the ground they are. They should be able to complete the cognitive, functions to connect the dots.
100%. They can extrapolate on their own, is how I see it, right? Because I provide the whole foundation. Typically, if you watch 3 shows, you got the foundation, and you can extrapolate on your own. If you're paying attention, you might have to watch your first times around. You might have to watch it 3 or 4 times because there's so much information that we take it for granted, right? The hardcore people like me and you. But I know there's so much information there because I remember way back, 20 years ago or something, I had 7,000 lectures on nuclear because Harvard and Yale and Stanford and Oxford and MIT and all the major shakers and movers were posting their classes online, and it was very low quality back in those days, right? And right. And you needed a powerful computer just to stream, and you would download it, right? And it was quite a nightmare to actually get it to work, but I was fascinated with, and I was seeing that's I was almost pro nuclear back then, right? Because I was lulled into this complacency, right? And then I started realizing. Yeah, I started realizing, wait a second, there's a lot of lying going on here, right? There's a lot of inconsistencies. And once I understood it, I was, oh shit. Oh shit.
Well, I think that makes sense. That you're the only voice out there. You're coming out with a shirt. That's they're scared to death of that. So we'll just keep doing it. Screw it. That's all we can do is just waste their time because the message is going to come out. It has to come out. these people, that's why I didn't say anything else after that. I just left it be. I'm like, you know, it's like I'm wearing Dana's shirt, Save the Whales, ban nuclear energy in the grocery store, and somebody looks, and they don't know how to register that. But, consciousness, and then go from there. Because it's really, like you said before, you know, people will understand it, you know, eventually.
So if you had a big billboard, and the billboard said "Save the insects, ban nuclear power,"
Right.
the nuclear industry would lose their mind. They would burn that. They would burn that down that day. I bet you.
Yeah, but they would sleep in guilt because it kind of. I'm like, well, why would anyone say that? It's like, well, why are you asking the question?
Yeah.
You know?
I love it, eh? I love the fact that we deconstructed the nuclear industry right down to a fine detail a long time ago, but we refine it constantly, right? You know, we adapt to tell the story little shades different, but more detailed and more easily absorbed, I would hope, right? We're about to do it again this year because we're almost ready to launch research expeditions. We're just days away, man, from launching. They don't realize it, eh?
I'm so frightened. You're going to put the first slide under the microscope.
I am too. I'm horrified by it. I was thinking about it today. I was in the city today, and when I was coming back from the city, and I'll show some pictures and videos for everybody at the end of the show. But when I was coming back from the city, I'm looking at ponds on both sides of the road. There's ponds everywhere, man. And there's not a single bird in any of them. And there's no birds flying. There's no birds crossing the road. There's no migratory. We're the biggest migratory. And I was saying to myself, this is insane. This is insane, right? This is heartbreaking, yeah? This is insane, though. It's very somber, right? And I came home and I just jumped out of the vehicle. I changed clothes. I took the equipment. I started right back on the trailer again. I got to get this finished. And the plan was to have the boat on the trailer this evening, but I still haven't got the lights on. So the last thing I got left to do is the lights, right? I'll do that tomorrow morning. And I'm anxious, eh? I got 6 gallons. I got 6 gallons of gas picked up.
Yeah, it's just.
I bought gas in town because the gas is cheap, right? And I'm ready to go, man. I'm anxious, but I was busted up today. I was so busted up, I had to sit in a chair alongside the trailer to put the screws in. I'll show you that coming up. Not me sitting in the trailer, but like I almost had a hernia. It was so bad I couldn't bend over anymore. And I almost got heat stroke too. We had a hot day for a change. And I still wouldn't give up. I still don't know how to quit. I just, the brain doesn't know how to, it won't let me stop. And like, this is all automatic, right? There's nothing, if I don't do it, I'll lose my fucking mind. I have to do what I'm doing or I'm going to go insane. And
right.
Like a lot, like you probably get it, but a lot of people can't seem to get it. But somebody better do what we're doing because
it's just an honor to talk to you, Dana, knowing how much you're doing for the National Geographic, to lift up their think of, you know, it's just you're incredible, and we all appreciate you. You too,
man. You're amazing yourself, buddy. Don't think you're not.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to your Chat GP showing up one of these days, buddy. That's gonna be so awesome.
But I'll keep working on the mission patch, and once
the
selling all of
send that to me. You know what I'm gonna do. Okay.
All right, thanks so much.
Love you too, buddy. Yeah, thank you, James. Okay, good stuff, my friend. Yeah, bye-bye. That's James Lucid, folks. If you're not familiar, he's in the comments section quite a bit. And James has all the famous one-liners. He's not the same without James's one-liners, let me tell you that much. And you can't do that unless you're paying attention, right? Unless you've thought things out. That's the only way that you can come up with these types of one-liners for so long, right? And be so accurate with it. And so another shirt censored, and this was a fantastic shirt that jumped and took off right away. And, you know, my videos get posted at other sites besides YouTube, right? We've been at this a long time. And so I don't know. All I know is I won't be slowing down anytime soon. I'm just not capable of it, see? I get what's going on. We documented it. We've done 6 years of research from Vancouver to Alaska, 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean without coming ashore. Well, you go ashore and get fuel and groceries, and you head back out, and you're traveling the whole coastline, 27,000 islands. I can honestly say I don't miss those days at all. I had so many terrifying experiences doing that by myself. And we had no choice, right? And thank goodness that we did do that, because now we can quantify. And that's the driving force, really, behind what we do ever since. Is the truth will set you free. Farmland use would continue on a deep geological repository. So just try wrapping your mind around this statement. Like, the Nuclear Waste Service, the new one, that's 2 years old, the madness that Buddy was talking about, recycling 98% of the waste instead of it going into a nuclear repository. He changed everything. He said, well, why don't we just recycle it? And they're like, well, you do whatever you want. We like you. You're going places. And he's like, I'm so proud of myself, I'm going to put my picture up in the newspaper. We won't forget him. We'll be keeping an eye on that guy. That guy was crazy. You can't recycle nuclear waste. And just because you're stupid and done it, that doesn't make it right, see? Now, like, try wrapping your mind around this statement right here. This is the Canadian, this was July the 8th, 2020, by the way. And I was reading another story about the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, which is hasn't managed anything in 18 years, outside of stealing the interest on $28 billion or $26 billion every year. They had $26 billion 19 years ago, actually. And they haven't got a single fucking interest on it in 18, 19 years. It's still $26 billion. Does anybody really think they're not growing interest? They're the government. Do you think they're not growing massive interest in it each year? Where's all that money going to? They haven't done nothing. And they throw a few $1 million here and a few $1 million there into the communities. But I mean, that's not even pocket change to $26 billion interest, right? So there's a big incentive to be evil. It's incredible incentive. But this headline, this story here, in all honesty, like I almost threw up when I read this because of the implications. Farmland would would continue at a deep geological repository. Farmland use. And then they show you the farm. Now, this is going to be 1,500 acres. And 250 acres, which is a square mile, a square kilometer, is going to be the facility at the surface. But they want you to keep farming all around the facility. Now, the square kilometer is not a very small spot, is it? And they're going to bring the nuclear fuel rods there, and they're going to repackage it. But what does that actually mean? You know, like, what are you talking about? They're going to repackage it. Well, it's not going to be in a cask. It's not going to be contained, because once you contain it, you can't take it out of the containment, because you're going to fill it up with helium, for instance, right, to stop it from igniting. And if you introduce oxygen in there, it's going to ignite. So it's not going to be in a cask. In other words, it's vented. And like we know with all other repositories, so-called repositories that you currently have, like the Waste Isolation Pilot Project, everything is vented on the highways. Like the Los Alamos National Laboratories to New Mexico to the Waste Isolation Pilot Project, everything is vented. Right? It's vented when it leaves, it's vented on the highways, and is repackaged when it gets there, it's vented into the local ecosystem. But Canada is going to take it to a whole different level. They're going to be surrounded by prime farmland, and they bought 1,500 acres at Bruce, right? South Bruce. And so everything's going to be vented for 138 years. The industry is so evil, but they can't tell you that, right? They're not going to tell you that everything is vented, because then you're going to be like, well, we don't want it. Well, they don't even want to do that. But they're just setting the stage, because it becomes normal. And eventually, if they're forced to get a repository, then it'll be in farmland and everything is vented. They don't want to do it because everything is vented. They are killing the planet. They intentionally are destroying it. And they're doing it, it's a slow kill, but it's a nasty, radiation sickness is It's nasty. There's heart, liver, lung, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline. There's Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. There's some real mental health issues with radiation, right? And obesity rates doubled in Japan in the first year, which is a clear marker indication of radiation brain damage. You probably got friends and loved ones yourself even that gained a huge amount of weight in just a 1 or 2 year period. Been the same weight your whole life, and then all of a sudden you gain. It happened to me. Just blew me away. It's like, what the hell is going on? Well, I kind of knew what was going on. But, how can you just gain weight when you don't even change your fucking diet? How does that work? It's you've been poisoned. I would like to respond to a recent story from farmterial.com entitled Farmland versus Nuclear Waste. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization, which has never managed any nuclear waste whatsoever. The current storage method for the resulting used nuclear fuel is safe, which is it's absurd to suggest that it's safe. It's splitting atoms into the environment 24 hours a day. On a scale that the average person, if you could see it, you would run away. Like you would run away. If you can see what came off of nuclear sites fuel pools every day, you jump in the car, you grab the wife and the kids, or the wife grab her husband and kids, or you grab your loved ones, and the basic necessity in 3 minutes or less, and we would drive like you never driven before. If you can see the nuclear emissions from a nuclear plant, you would fucking run like you can't imagine. You're like, that's a death cloud. Run. Listen, honey, I want to grab pictures of mom and dad. No, run. You got to run now. Look at it. Because it would fucking terrify you if you could see the emissions from the fuel pools every day. That would fucking terrify you. I don't give a fuck who you are either. That would terrify you. If you were a nuclear scientist and you were looking at it, because you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, you can't feel it, you can't taste it, you can't perceive it. But I can guarantee you can fucking see, if you could see it. I'll give you an idea, really. Because I can see it. I can see it so fucking clear it makes me sick. Every fuel pool does this, look. This is Fukushima model, but look at the plume coming out. It never stops. Look where the plume is coming from. It never stops. The plume grows, but it never stops coming out of that same spot. And after 30 days, the whole planet is covered in this giant plume, but it never stopped coming out of there. Now, the plume is going to stop at some point in the video, but that's not a fucking video. That's real. It never stops coming out, and that never stops happening. Covers the entire planet. So now the video stopped, and everybody's like, oh, well, that's it. No, it's still doing the same thing today. It's still hemorrhaging out of there. So it's like an invisible snowstorm, but if you could see it, you would dig a hole. You would dig a 100-foot deep hole, and you would fill it up with all your supplies, and you would move down there. You never come to the fucking surface again. If you could actually see it, you would understand it. You would get it. And you got 1,000 of these fuel pools worldwide doing that to you, and you just can't sit there anymore. You just can't pretend it's happening because you can't perceive it. And this is France's model. This is based on 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air, which is pulsing energy 600 feet every second. And this industry is not used to being challenged. It's never been challenged. Not only is it not used to be challenged, it has never been challenged. Now, I'm not bragging and blowing my own whistle. Maybe I am, but we're challenging it. But we're challenging it through a system, like the whole operation that I built, and I have a huge operation. It's hard to comprehend how big this whole operation is that I put together, because I dedicate everything to the operation. My whole life is about telling the story and hammering this industry to pieces. And you got to understand this industry is going to come after you. It's going to accuse you of the most vile things. It has endless amounts of venues out there to perpetrate those lies and deceit and dishonesty. And so I know my reputation is going to be destroyed a long time ago. And I was never surprised when they done it to me. And they attacked me, and now they ramped it up. And so Even in my own communities, I'm fucking hated because the nuclear industry now has made it so that I'm a monster, right? So being intelligent means you're a fucking monster for the average person because they're morons. No concept of reality. No matter, and they'll look for the little tiniest fucking thing and then use that to disregard you. And so I'm not even allowed to make a Freudian slip, really. Because that then is used, oh, well, he made a mistake, fuck him. You know, I can do a 2-hour show or a 5-hour show. If I make a single tiny mistake, then people are conditioned subconsciously, without them even understanding it, to use that to bludgeon the truth, to ignore the truth, to pretend the truth now doesn't matter. And then they become fixated on what they perceive as a misquote or Freudian slip or something like that. And so I've always targeted the policymakers, the investors, and people like that. And I hope people like yourselves would show up, and I embrace that, right? But ultimately, who's? I don't need to target everybody in the country to fuck up the nuclear industry. I need to target the policymakers and the investors, and they're going to seek me out. I don't give a fuck what people say about me. They're going to seek me out, and they're going to say, "Well, he's honest. There's the information. There's the information. There's the information." And they're going to do that for 2 fucking hours. They're going to be, "There's the information. There's the information. There's the information. There's the information. There's the fucking information," and they can't deny that. And they're in the know, but they've been lied to their whole lives too, and I'm aware of that because I've seen so many of their interviews. I sincerely believe the majority of them doesn't understand the real horror of this industry. And when they finally find me, and they will find me, because I've been at this a long time. And I've always prided myself on being honest, being very sincere and very, very straightforward. And but I'm ultimately on me. I can't be somebody else and tell this story. I can only be Dana. So what you see is what I'm like in real life. I'm actually like this in real life. I talk like this in real life. This is me. I'm not going to pretend I'm somebody else. This is who I am. What you see every night, that's Dana. I'm like this 24 hours a day on top of that. That's my personality, see? And I knew a long time ago that was probably one of my best assets was me. Just be Dana, right? And, and the reason I'm able to keep everything in my mind straight, because I've been at this for a very long time, but that doesn't make it easy, does it? The reason it's easy is because I'm honest. And I confront my fears all the time. Right? I don't hide away from anything. But the main thing about me is that because I'm honest, I don't have to remember a bunch of fucking lies. And so no one's going to trip me up because I don't lie. And that's why it works, right? Because I'm very honest. I'm honest with myself. And then I research everything before I open my fucking mouth, too. And that's why I have so many folders and so many facets of the stories. I'll say, oh, hang on, I got a folder in this, or hang on, I got a folder in that, or hang on, because I'll gather up this information, so that I can tell the story from a different perspective and show you it's unassailable that this is the fact. And then by proxy, you have the confidence now, right? Because you're not there's no misrepresentations, and that's on purpose, right? We can't have any kind of disinformation or any kind of misrepresentation in this conversation because you can't extrapolate if that's in the mix. You can only extrapolate the actual facts and the documentation if it's accurate. And so I've gotten through a lot of trouble to make sure I'm accurate. And it shows. I pulled most of the hair out of my head a long time ago. It is unfortunate that the article characterizes Canada's plan to safely manage to use nuclear fuel as being in conflict with agricultural or other existing land use in South Bruce on more than 1,300 acres, actually 1,500 acres, where we have entered an agreement with local landowners. Farmers continue to primarily economic activities. Well, just let me make sure that's honest. Make sure I was right when I said 1,500 acres. I know I'm right, but I could be wrong. I could make a mistake. And when you see me do that, you know why I'm doing it, because I want to make sure you know I'm right. That's more important to me, too. Okay, here we go. All right, there you are. Here we go. It's not 1,300 acres, it's 1,500 acres. Yeah, but no, they're right in one sense. So let me back that up. Nuclear Waste Management Organization signed more agreements with landowners in South Bruce. And they have added a total potential repository site, which is 1,500 acres. They only need 250 acres for the facility on the surface of prime farmland, which is a square kilometer, right? So I said that earlier, right? A square kilometer. And the remainder will continue to be used as it is today, which is farmland. And so back to that story. It's 1,300 acres. We have an agreement with local landowners. Farming continues. A guaranteed existing use may continue as a key part of the agreement. And we see that with every nuclear power plant. We see that with every nuclear dump, every nuclear waste site. They have these exact same attributes, particularly surrounded by farms. I was so tired. At 4:30 this afternoon, I didn't dream for 1 second that I was going to do a show tonight. Not for 1 second. I was sunstroke. My face was burnt. I had to come in and choke cold clots in my face and then put cream all over my face because it was burnt. And I had a hernia on my right side. And I still wouldn't give up. I'll show you that pictures of what I was doing, and you can visualize it. And so what I'm going to show you right now is the craziest thing imaginable. So we're talking about South Bruce, but I want you to think about every other nuclear disease factory on the planet. But I want you to realize that, first off, they got all kinds of studies knowing that radiation and farms are the stupidest combination imaginable. It's the stupidest, the most sadistic thing you can do is have a farm and nuclear in the same spot. And you know I'm right. We got 13 viewers. And the most important topic in human history. 13 viewers. These are maniacs, eh? It's a coward industry, let's face it. So why is every nuclear power plant except for a couple surrounded by farms? Do you think that's a fucking accident? You think that's just a coincidence? And that every nuclear power plant's emissions, what you're looking at is radioactive fallout from the fuel pools. But remember, these fallouts don't just land in farms, they cover the entire planet. And they do it in a short while, and it's a continuous plume that never stops. Long after the plant is shut down, the fuel pools are still hemorrhaging radiation. Do you really think all that radiation is not going to be sucked up? Because I guarantee you it's going to get sucked up. They got endless studies showing it will be sucked up by the food. And guess what happens when you eat that food? It ain't fucking pretty, okay? And your children and the elderly are incredibly vulnerable. And we don't cover the elderly anymore? What is wrong with us? The people with the most experience, and we don't covet them? That on its own is a crime. Who has the most knowledge? Isn't that the elderly people who worked their entire life? And by proxy, they have 60, 70, 80 years of knowledge. How the fuck is that not important? I don't understand that, see? I do understand why every nuclear power plant and nuclear dump is surrounded by farms. And all 14 of you watching the show understands too a bit, including the people that are censoring me. Don't think for a second I haven't got them indoctrinated. But they're so evil, it might not sink into their heads for a decade. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram of cesium-137. Don't think for a second that cesium-137 is anything in the food. But cesium-137 pulsing energy 600 feet every second. What do you think that's going to do when it's in their kids' bodies? It's going to put permanent lesions on their organs. What do you think it's going to do to the insects? It's going to sterilize them so they don't reproduce. And because they have many generations each year, it manifests quicker in them than it will in the human, right? You really think that this industry, the engineers didn't design each of these plants and farm? The first thing they said when they're, well, where's all the farmland to around here so we can go look at it? Oh, well, let's put a nuclear plant over right here. Because we need to be in the center of the farms. That's where the water, close to the center where all the farms are to, and water. Well, if they can't get the center, then they'll divert the water so they can be more centralized. So, like, each of these studies are terrifying. They're terrifying because every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms. And there's zero possibility that the nuclear industry doesn't know this. It's zero, because they're the ones who've done the studies. Like, the average academic is not doing a study on radioactive fallout in food, okay? That's nuclear academics. And they're the same ones who would have been consulted originally. Like, this is a whole level of evil that the world doesn't understand. This is a level of evil that the world can't seem to comprehend, but it fucking well better start comprehending it. You are way down this rabbit hole, but you're 80 years down the rabbit hole. And you got no choice. You got to climb out of this fucking hole. And you can win this argument. There's no one can beat anybody that's here regular. There's not a fucking person on the planet can beat you in the truth on these topics. There's not a single person out there. You're the most armed population on this planet. You can win any battle you put your mind to. There's nobody can stand up to your truth. And when they try to tell you law, you're going to have that answer. It's sitting right fucking there in the back of your head, ready to come out and slam dunk these scumbags that are going to lie to you. In other words, if I took you people, you wonderful people, and put you in a live debate on television, what the audience is going to love you at the end of the show. If you had the Yale nuclear scientists, Harvard nuclear scientists, and you're sitting there meek and shy and humble, and then the debate starts, and with a moderator, and you both get, one says, well, it's like a banana, the other one says, hey, don't listen to him, folks. It's actually much, it has nothing to do with a banana. It's completely dishonest. They can't beat you. And so I won anyway. No matter what happens to me, I won. Because I created all of you monsters, wonderful monsters, for the nuclear industry. You're only a monster to the nuclear industry. Nuclear industry is a monster to everybody in the 8 million species. But to the nuclear industry, you're their worst nightmare. Right? They can never look in a mirror again if they try to debate you. They can't win that debate. I made sure of that because I have driven the finer points home for so long that even though you probably don't understand it, you are incredibly articulated. If you were pushed, you will win. Experimentally determined translocations of 134 cesium in potatoes. Who eats potatoes? Raise your hand if you eat fucking potatoes. So does everybody out there basically raise their hand? Because we all eat potatoes at one time or another, right? And you got poisoned by radiation fallout, most likely, unfortunately. But see, when there's all of these studies, then why would we have nuclear power plants surrounded by farms? When those tall skinny stacks, they're hemorrhaging radiation 24 hours a day. Not the big ones, they're steam. There's some radiation comes out of them, by the way. But these tall skinny stacks, that's what they're for. They're meant to push the radiation off the site. This is a horrible industry, and its time has come and gone. And the industry now will kill everything. It can only exist by destroying everything. Our commitments, now back to that story about South Bruce, Farmland, and of our commitment to support economic activities is one of the many ways we invest in local community well-beings. We're committed to protecting the environment and farmland. What the fuck are you talking about? You disgusting parasite. And that's another thing about me, that I'm going to call them what they are. I'm not going to fucking sugarcoat jack shit. That's not in my DNA. That's why I'm here. I was built for this fucking job, as far as I can tell. I was the perfect person for what I do. It's the perfect fucking job for me. And don't think that I'm fearless. Don't think I'm not worried. Don't think that I'm some fucking brave person. I'm not. I'm a desperate person, because the world better come up with a solution. We got to come up with a solution. I'm not doing this because it's fun. A little bit maybe, but well, actually there is no. The fun is destroying the nuclear industry, because it's got to get done. So if I don't make fun of it, if I don't have fun doing it, it's going to be very difficult to do, right? But it's a very difficult job. It's a very lonely job, right? And when I'm out there doing research, it's the loneliest job on the planet, because there ain't no birds out there to keep me company. There ain't no animals, there ain't no mammals to keep me company. And when you do the research expeditions, let me explain the research expeditions a little bit. So I go out on the ocean, and currently I'm going to be using that Zodiac you see over there, the small one, and the big one, of course. But I'll be using that small one a lot this year because it's very cheap. I can run the whole week on $2 and 2.5 gallons. And that little one has 2 motors. That's an 8 horsepower. And I got 2 small ones. I think that's a 3.5, that Honda. They're all both 4-strokes, right? So I go out on these research expeditions, because we got the documentation of what happened, right? So when I go out there, I'm on the beaches. There's no colors. This is what it's supposed to look like. But there's no color. There's nothing there. There's no insects. There should be 30,000 insects in these tidal zones. Now I shouldn't be allowed to put I shouldn't be able to put the Zodiac on the beaches, because you should be worried about punching a whole bunch of fucking holes in it with the sea urchins. I should be worried about breaking my neck trying to get up to the low tide line because of all the species. It's so slippery, so dangerous. The 700 algae, the 80 sponges, the incredible 78 species I've seen. Each species comes in multiple vibrant colors. This is very dangerous stuff. But there's nothing on the beach. It's naked. There's nothing on the beach. It's completely colorless. It's odorless. Everything is wiped out because of the fucking nuclear industry. Now, how do I get that? After 6 years of doing that, the species didn't come back. How am I supposed to switch that off? Somebody want to fucking explain that to me? How do I switch that off? I spend 6 years, 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean by myself, dedicated twice a day at the low tide lines. At high tide, I was doing the estuaries, right? You're able to go way up the estuaries at high tide, because up there you got a 19-foot tide exchange twice a day. And there was only 2 times in 6 years that I had a seabird in the anchorages with me. How do I switch that off, see? Like, there's nothing on the beaches. It's completely naked. But, like, remember, I was a commercial diver, and I dove all of these spots. I'm very familiar with it. And now there's nothing there, post-Fukushima. Now there's nothing. There's no color, right? This is what it looked like now. But that's what it used to look like to your left, obviously. How do I switch that off, that doesn't exist anymore? How do I pretend that doesn't friggin' matter? So when I'm on these beaches, there's nothing to take a picture of. And like if you see a little starfish, if you're lucky, and you see a starfish, you're not going to see shellfish. They don't exist. The beaches are made of the shells from the shellfish that are broken down over millenniums, eons. But there's no shells on the beaches. It's just the pieces of the shells. The whole story is insane. And we should let the nuclear industry continue when it has these attributes. I don't understand our rationale. I can't quantify. Like, the media is so insane. They're pretending they're at the top of a building that don't exist because they know the fucking thing has wiped out all the species. And that if the world wakes up, that's the end of them too. So they have an incentive too. And they're given a bigger incentive because now they can't tell the truth because then they're going to say, well, you faked it. And should that be a crime, pretending you're in a building that don't exist so you don't understand the horror? Now they made it hard for you to think straight because they poisoned you. The food was banned in 14 prefectures of Japan, not just Fukushima, but 14 prefectures for 10 years by 55 countries. Not Canada. Canada's not a country. Canada's a nuclear entity. Canada removed all restrictions after 93 days. So Japan couldn't ship the food from the nuclear wasteland anywhere except for Canada for quite a few years. So, I mean, they're growing food right alongside the nuclear meltdowns in abandoned towns. They go in there and they harvest food right alongside of millions of one-ton bags of radiation. I can't comprehend that. I can't wrap my mind around that level of evil. I just can't. And I've been at this for a long time. I can't rationalize that. I can't rationalize it. They admit to 30 million one-ton bags. I can't rationalize that. Which, by the way, put a one-ton bag in the back of a one-ton pickup truck. 30 million one-ton bags is 5 rows of traffic bumper to bumper around the entire fucking planet. You know, like what they dumped in the soil at Hanford was equal to a 6-foot wide aquarium, 518 feet tall, wrapped around the planet more than once, of high-level nuclear waste, dumped into the soil right alongside the Columbia River, which flows down to the Pacific, mind you, and past 25,000 farms, which use the Columbia River for the farms. Like, this industry is not supposed to exist. I say it many times. But when I went out and I went from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska for 6 fucking years, and the species are completely wiped out and never recovered, never came back, because that's why I've done 6 years, to see if they recovered. And guess what? They didn't recover. And I'm not, no one's going to push me around. And so I went out there and took my fucking time and meandered through 27,000 islands. I went to all the pinch points. There were years where I only done the West Coast open ocean the whole year. Because these are all the pinch points where the Pacific has to squeeze into the 27,000 islands, right? Not because I love getting shit scared out of me every fucking day. Not because it's a vacation. I can tell you it's not no vacation. There's not a single day I had out there where you can call it a vacation. It was a horror. It was a fucking nightmare every day. There wasn't a day out there when it wasn't a nightmare. Because there's nothing to look at. It's the loneliest fucking job in human history was to go out and do a species count. That would have been fucking a vacation, okay? That's not a vacation. And by the way, the vacation is over, okay? There will never be another vacation again. Because that's wiped out. That's gone. That's not an opinion. That's not a conjecture. That's a fucking fact. I apologize. I just realized I've been swearing for about 20 fucking minutes here. And the problem with me is once I start swearing, well, I shouldn't worry about it too much, I suppose. I shouldn't worry about it too much because there's only 13 people on the show. There's a hell of a lot more than that watching the show. But they don't want anybody, they want people to look at it and say, well, there's only 13 people on the show, I'm not watching that. That's why they do that, right? You know fucking well that this is a hardcore topic, right? There's no bullshit, there's no nonsense, this is hardcore. And so the people, I've been around a long fucking time, and so I guarantee there's more than 13 people watching. But I say to the people that are censoring me, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Why are you so fucking stupid? You really think you're going to escape this? You think your loved ones are going to escape it so you can get a fucking paycheck to censor somebody? Video. You think you're fucking clever because you're censoring somebody? You think you're special because you're censoring somebody? They give you a fucking head a shake is what you should do. When it falls off, give it a kick. This will come back and bite you and everybody you love for the rest of your life. So you can have a fucking paycheck to censor somebody online. You're literally the stupidest person ever created. Let's play some videos from the day. That'll always cheer me up. I gotta get my headphones on. Some videos and pictures from the day. I went in desperation. We don't have enough to finish the job, so I had to go get it. All right, so it's Monday today, the 21st of May, 2024. And so we needed screws because the deck on the trailer is nails. I always pick up a pack of different sizes of these. They're so cheap, right? So we got two fenders. We got two 8-foot E-tracks for the small trailer. You got to have them, right? I got to bring back that oil. I changed that oil. Super happy about that. Yeah. And so I had to break out the other welder today to do the fenders because the small stick welder will actually burn a hole through the fender. I was able to fix it with the wire-fed welder. So I haven't bolted that little stick welder. That's fantastic, man. Once you figure it out, once you understand how to make it work, you got to have your ground right close to your rod. But you got to have the right rods too, right? It's only 60, 70 amp. And so if you got the right rods, you can burn the rods right down to the little stump. It's actually really good. You got to do a lot of work though, but who cares, right? It got done. And so we got the two fenders welded on. But we got more going on here. All right, we're getting there. We got fenders on, and now we got to put those on. The big boys. They're the E-tracks, right? So I got the E-tracks mounted on. All I got left to do now is put the lights on, right? These lights. I went out again tonight. I was going to put the lights on. I was all stupid and thought I can do it. And I was like, no. Just let your body settle down and do it tomorrow morning, Dana. All right. So I do believe we're done. There's a fucking lot of work. We've been at this for quite a while, a couple of weeks, right? It's hard to appreciate. Like everything underneath it is brand new. All the axles, we got a 3,500 pound axle under it. Brand new tires. We got all the hangers. We had to buy extra hangers to make it work. And shackles. And then these E-tracks, because I got a shitload of straps for the E-tracks. They're going to save me a lot of misery. And I'm using the 3-inch screws because a lot of my wood is rotten, but I'm able to get deep enough. And then I also have the proper leg bolts to put in there. So I put them on the outside, but the outside are the 3-inch, and the inside is the leg bolts. So I'm quite happy. And so you can see the light over there. I got to, tomorrow morning I got to take that off. Now there's a heavy piece of metal coming out. I got to clean that, and I got to weld on another piece, and then I can mount my lights back here, and they'll still be inside the fender range, right? And less chance of busting it, because I'm actually really good with trailers anyway. I always was. I'm very natural to backing trailers up, but I got a bad habit of taking chances sometimes. Like, you wouldn't believe how tight it is to back that in there. I only had about 4 inches on each side of the trailer. I had to back it in and make a turn. First try. And so you see the angles. I got those extra angles. They're bolted down in that position. And then the brass tie-down straps too. So we're in good shape. Because that Zodiac, I'm going to leave the cabin on it, and it's going to be strapped down. And then I welded that on, chopped out the old one yesterday. That was an hour of pounding with the hammer and grinders and everything else. And got the old one off and put the new one in, welded it and painted it. And I gotta rewire the truck. Not only gotta rewire the trailers, I gotta rewire the truck tomorrow because I'm having problems with the lights. The lights on the trucks works, but as soon as I plug in the lights, I'm having problems. And I must have screwed up because I've had to replace the connection on the truck 7 or 8 times. And so it's time just to gut it off, seal everything properly, make new connections. And we have the new technology now too. Plus we have the new voltmeter. That fucking new voltmeter, man, is unbelievable. And I got the lights for on sale for half price for $35. And so this picture, when I made this picture here, look how friggin' good this is. Every time I try to include radiation with dead birds or dead whales on the beach, the artificial intelligence would say, okay, you had enough today. So I have to sign out, clean out all my cookies, sign back in and start again. And so you got to build the beach, and you got to put, like, the idea of putting the boat there was try to trick the software. And I probably made 12, 14 attempts to make this picture. And I said, so I was supposed to be a female scientist, but it gave me this. And I wanted Geiger counters and radiation signs or symbols. And it got sick of me fighting it, I suppose, and went, poof, here you go, fuck off, Dan, leave me alone. The artificial intelligence. And I actually put the sign in the whale. You can't see it on this one. But if I bring it up on the bigger screen, not the bigger screen, but this screen here, you can see it actually struck down through the whale radiation sides. So when I was thinking about Maria Korsnick, the monster, I was like, I'm going to pair her up. And I'm looking for that picture. Now, the weekend I created 450 of these pictures. There's probably about 60 or 70 that I couldn't use. Because a lot of times you got to start off with a clean sheet, and then you got to slowly. You can't put dead whales on the beach. You got to put whales that are sleeping on a beach, and it'll actually give you. But you don't want the whales all to look symmetrical anyway. Who knows? So we spent 250 today, not counting fuel, and I picked up 6 gallons of fuel also on top of that today for the boat. And so I'm hoping people will donate. The links to donate are in the bottom of my description. It's really simple. Both of them are directly to my account at the PayPal. You can't make a mistake. And at my website, you can use Google Play Card. And the systems I'm using are proper banking. And so I don't see anything, right? I get the final result in an email. Here you have a donation, right? But remember, like, this was my food, my pension for the next month that I spent today. Because we got to get this operation up and going, and I can't.
Right.
I can't sit in silence and not be able to do something. It drives me fucking nuts. And we got a big operation, and sometimes we do stuff like this where we say, well, look, this is the solution. We're going to have to do it, and unfortunately, there's just a couple of people who've been able to step up, and they've had to step up too many times, way too many times, and it breaks me heart sometimes, right? But there's nothing I can do about it. Just be grateful, and don't let people down, right? Just follow through and do the job. And remember, I'm human, right? Sometimes I don't realize I'm human, because like today, on sunstroke, I got a hernia. It's just, I'm sitting there on a chair, drilling the last 25 or 30 screws in because I don't want to stop, because it's too hard to get started again, right? And there's too much to do. And I only know how to. I'm really good at doing the job, but it's hard to do the job when you don't have the resources. So this last year and a half or something, we've built the whole another operation of a tool, of a machine shop basically. I put together a mini machine shop. It's not really mini anymore. It's actually quite a big machine shop now. And there's not many jobs I can't tackle and finish, complete. I don't think there's any jobs right now I can't tackle and complete. That's pretty impressive. That's fantastic because we have a big operation. My operation is rusted. It's been the war many years. My outboard motors have been to fucking sea for 6 years straight, for goodness sakes. They're the same motors. I'm very thoughtful on maintenance. I'm very thoughtful on taking care of my equipment. And I've been at that a long time before Fukushima, right? And I know how to do things like that. But I'm not healthy anymore. It's very difficult. It's very difficult when you have an extinction event playing out and not do the best that you can, right? It's a very difficult thing. I noticed they gave us a new pole look. We got a new pole look. Look at this. The hell? I apologize for just rambling on tonight. 14 viewers. Look at that again. Wow. They just hate my guts tonight. I don't blame them. If I was a coward, I'd hate my guts too. Should the Nuclear Energy Institute chief, Maria Korsnick, apologize for Fukushima killing all the whales, seals, seabirds, and insects? I do believe they should. I firmly believe they should. Don't you? This is the Nuclear Energy Institute right there. Look, that's their Sunday class. Good night, everybody. We're going to close the poll down. Because when I start rambling sometimes, it goes on and on and on. Yeah, I started with that many viewers. Thank you, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night, a great day tomorrow. James, send another PayPal, James. Oh my goodness. James is going to do us up a badge. We're going to get another shirt out. I'm going to set up another site for t-shirts. And maybe even 2 more sites so that we can guarantee we'll get it out on one of these sites. Yeah, good night, everybody. Hugs for everybody. Have a great night. Have a great day tomorrow. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. I do believe tomorrow night is a die-off show tomorrow night. Because I got quite a pile there now. Emaciated. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And when you put it together in a show like that, how can anybody deny? How can the world deny? How can the world not fight back? It's the saddest story imaginable. The world's not fighting back. And I'm here until we do. Thanks for everybody. Have a great night. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Take care.